Bonjour, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of the BMC Sport Science podcast. I'm your host today. I hope everyone's had a good weekend following our first few weeks back in college. Apologies for the lack of podcasts recently. The boys have been really getting into the professional discussions. So how did everyone's weekend go? And what has everyone's professional discussions been like?
Cheers, Jace. My weekend's been good. Been watching a lot of sport, a lot of rugby, Six Nations on. In terms of professional discussion, I felt like mine went pretty good, to be fair. It was one of them that I felt like you had to prepare well for, but overall I felt like it went well. And the next one up is the big one, isn't it? Dissertation. So I think we'll talk about that a bit more further down the line.
Yeah, well, that's handy seeing as no one's probably started yet. But Luke, I know you. How did your discussion go? I'm guessing it went well since you can waffle pretty well.
Yeah, normally it's you waffling, so it made a difference being someone else. But
Right.
I'd say mine went pretty well, to be fair. Like Matt said, if you prepare, then you're sorted really, and I prepared pretty well beforehand. So I'd say yeah, it went all right, and my weekend went decent too. And I'm sure yours did as well, Jason, with your first professional goal. Well done.
It did. Thank you.
Well done.
Finally get over the mark. Yeah, great weekend for the pods in general, I guess. So yeah, good news. John Joe, how was your weekend?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Jason. Been at work most of the weekend, but it was nice to get a bit of downtime, like Matt said, with the Six Nations on, and had a few beers in the rugby, and just go about the professional discussion. That also went really well. Again, just to quote Matt and Luke, it's just one of those ones that I think you had to be quite well prepared for walking in on the day. And but no, I think mine went class, to be fair.
Good to hear, bro. Glad that you done well. Lewis, any updates?
I'm still buzzing from the Leicester game yesterday, to be honest. It's a good win.
Oh, yeah, that was a good win, actually. Did one on Man U, didn't they?
Just a bit.
Yeah, well, let's get into it. I'm not going to ask you to introduce your dog today, Matt, but I hope he's had a good weekend also. In this episode of the podcast, we will be discussing individual 5-year plans and also everyone's visions or ambitions for the future. Also, we're going to be investigating interviews and the techniques which can make him more employable in the future. So to start off, Matt, would you be able to inform the listeners of your 5-year plan and the path you want to take following the completion of the sports science degree?
Yeah, sure. So for me, I'm not too sure if it's a bit too ambitious for 5 years, maybe more 7 to 10 years. But I want to own my own gym. That'll be called MS10 Fitness, that most you're aware of. But one of the things that I commonly get asked is why number 10? It's because my number 10 is my rugby number. So
Is that when you're not wearing 22 on the bench, Matt?
you know a thing or two about that, wouldn't you?
I'm used to having travelling reserve next to my name.
You're a playmate, yeah, Matt.
Playmaker, mate. That's it. But yeah, in terms of the second part of the question, Jace, on how I plan to get there. Initially, once completing the uni course in June this year, I plan to first be employed in a gym. And the reason why I want to do that is to mainly sort of learn the ropes on working in sort of a gym environment with equipment, obviously with clients, but with mentors as well. That can obviously improve my knowledge with all of that. And then when I feel like the right time, I'll go self-employed. So that's basically to build up responsibility of running a business for yourself, and then hopefully, like I said, when the finances are right, then I can move into sort of a place of my own. But yeah, short and sweet, really. But that's my I'll say 5+ year plan.
That's great to hear, Matt. Sounds like you got your route pretty well planned. It's a great industry to head into as well. The fitness industry, it's ever expanding. So that's good to hear from you, Matt. John Joe, would you like to give the listeners an overview?
Yeah, of course, mate. So with my 5-year plan, I think again it's pretty similar to Matt's, apart from not owning my own brand. I'd like to probably be more a personal trainer, maybe in a commercial gym or maybe in a privately owned gym, kind of like somewhere around Leicester. Again, how I get there, I'll need to hopefully finish my level 2 and level 3 personal training qualifications, which I've just finished paying off. I just need to finish it, but I think COVID set me back a little bit with that, because I was supposed to do a practical assessment, but obviously with the travel bans, I wasn't able to travel to the assessment centres, so it's kind of on standby at the minute. But all the theory I've pretty much passed. But again, I think I'd just like to be in a gym setting, whether that's as a personal trainer, maybe even as a strength and conditioning coach. So I'm still yet to kind of figure out what I want to do. It's just about trying new things, I guess. And then again, post degree, it's just trying to gain these extra qualifications that I can. And I think one thing that's important for the listeners is to try and get a backup plan as well. I think we've spoken about this in previous podcasts about having this kind of plan B, because you never know what's around the corner. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have like a little part-time job, which if nothing does go to plan, I can always fall back on that. So it might be worth kind of speaking about that somewhere down the line.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a difficult one, knowing what you want to do, particularly at this age, 20, 21. It's hard to know what you want to do in the future. But yeah, like you said, I think if you get as many qualifications as you can and build as many branches from your tree as possible, then you set yourself up pretty nicely. Thanks for that, John Joe. Lewis, would you like to talk about your 5-year plan?
Yeah, so my 5-year plan would be to become a PE teacher in preferably a secondary school setting. So for me to be able to do that, after we've completed this degree, next year I'll be going into a PGCE course, which is basically like a teacher qualification course that allows you to go and teach in schools. So that's basically my 5-year plan moving forward.
Yeah, is that something you've always been interested in then, teaching?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just something I've been passionate about for quite a while.
Yeah. What do you enjoy most about it?
I think mainly if I know that I've helped someone like develop as a person or in their educational studies, I think that's a really like positive thing to be able to do and to like aid them in their like development altogether.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, teaching, we always need teachers, and I think you've got the right skill set to do it. You're a great guy. So
Oh, cheers, mate.
anyway, I'm not going to stop you on you anyway. Moving on to Luke. I'll just sit back for about 20 minutes here, Luke, if you want to give us your plan.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah, so mine's similar to Lewis's. Mine's my aspiration is to become a PE teacher in a secondary school, which is obviously with year 7s to 11s, so aged 11 to 16. And then after completing the degree here at Brooksby, I will need to do either a PGCE, like Lewis said, or a initial teacher training, which will lead into qualified teacher status, QTS. And obviously give me qualification and you gain experience in the workplace. Although it's obviously sounding like I'm 100% about this, I'm still not exactly 100%. Like you touched on, Jason, John Joe did. A lot of young people don't really know. They don't have a set career path. Whereas myself, and I'm sure some of the people listening aren't sure what they 100% want to do. So alongside that, similar to what John Joe and Matt are doing, I've previously done my level 2 in fitness instructing and strength and conditioning. So therefore, I want to progress and do the level 3 afterwards, just as something to fall back on, is if I'm not 100% about going into teaching. So yeah, that's basically mine.
Yes, it's like John Joe said, it's good to have them other pathways that can always support you along the way. And I guess when you do go for them positions, as many qualifications as possible will help you get there.
Yeah, it's just something to have over the other competitors as well.
Definitely, yeah. Would you say that what point did you sort of feel like you wanted to be a teacher?
I'd say mainly in my first year of university here, to be fair, just obviously like Lewis said, having an impact on the kind of like younger generation to try and guide them and help them as much as you can, really.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I agree. And, you know, it can be difficult planning ahead for the future. You just never know what opportunities like might arise along the way. Like you could get curveballed at any moment, really. So you just got to be prepared. So moving on to the second part of the podcast, Matt, could you share with us any interview experiences you've had and any tips or techniques that you believe can help with employability in the future?
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing is it's really important to make a good first impression, and this could be done before the interview, and it could be actually done within your CV. And doing or building a solid CV will help you stand out from the rest initially. So the first thing for me is throughout the layout of that CV, it needs to be quite concise, but still obviously getting your point across. And this is because obviously you want to bring attention to the reader instead of boring them out. You know, we've all been there and we've had a large piece of text in front of us and we're like, do we really want to read that? So that's my first point really, is to keep it concise and to the point. Another point for me with CV is that it also needs to be specific to the job that you're wanting. So again, if I'm to use myself as an example and wanting to become a personal trainer, my CV needs to be relevant to that. So when I'm talking about my skills and qualities, for example, having good coaching cues to help my client use correct form during an exercise, which can say prevent injuries. Like that's quite a big thing as a PT. But then another thing is to that sort of looked at in the CV quite highly is previous work experience, and again these need to be relevant to the job that you want to go into. And again, for me, taking up a role as an S&C coach, a strength and conditioning coach, previously in this year with the rugby squad has allowed me to gain a greater understanding on specifically how to work with people with different needs. For example, obviously in rugby, a forward may need more strength work, whereas a back may need more speed work. So there again, you've just added another skill to your CV, which is being adaptive to different clients. So it has to be relevant to what you want to do as a future job. And then just lastly, and I'm sure the other lads will echo what I'm saying here, but the relevant experiences will really stick out to potential employers, and obviously qualifications are very important, and you essentially you need them to get a job that you want. But work experience will show that you have what it takes and you're capable of being in that role. So if you do get the opportunity, I know certainly, and again, you guys will back me up on this. I know certainly with the sports people at the college, that there are opportunities around. You just need to ask and essentially get involved. And ultimately, it won't just come to you. So, you know, get out there and start to get a better understanding of what it actually is like in the role that you aspire to undertake in the future.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Matt. You know, CVs are particularly important, but if you've got the relevant work experience on your CV, then the employer, if he looks at it and knows you've been in that environment and experienced all the difficulties and issues that come along the way, is definitely going to be more open to, you know, choosing you as the correct candidate. So thank you for that, Matthew. John Joe, would like to give us an insight?
I think I'd just like to follow on from what Matt said about getting out there and doing relevant work experience. And I think this is probably going to be the harsh truth about it, but a lot of it is going to be unpaid work. And I think that's the one thing that sets it aside from normal work, is that to employers, they've seen that you've gone out there and done unpaid work for, let's say, a random example might be for Leicester Tigers or for Mansfield Town or whoever. And they're looking and they think, wow, he's actually gone out and done unpaid work for work experience. And that kind of sets you that edge over someone else who's kind of maybe done maybe an apprenticeship or kind of been paid to sit and work, because then it's a different incentive of actually sitting there and you're there to be paid. Whereas if you're going out of passion and you're going out there because you actually want to work in this field, it's definitely worth, like Matt said, getting out there and chasing these opportunities, because if I'm honest, they don't come to you. You really need to go out there and chase them. And I think a little saying's like it's kind of a dog eat dog world. If you're not prepared to kind of get out there and chase what you want to do, then unfortunately I don't think some things are going to be right for you. And another tip I'd just like to mention is having that kind of self-belief in yourself, whether that's walking into an interview on the day or just in everyday life, is having that confidence in yourself that, yeah, I am going to get this job, or yeah, I am going to turn up to work today and do a good job, like whilst doing it is definitely important.
Yeah, definitely. It's just such a competitive environment. To just get that edge over your competitors is crucial. Completely agree with you there, John Joe. Thank you for that. Lewis?
Yeah, I think my like top tip follows on from what John Joe was just touching upon there. Mine would be to be as engaged as possible in these interviews. So that could be, how you present yourself while you're talking to the interviewer. That could be stuff like your body language, your sitting position, and simple stuff like making eye contact frequently and like nodding your head along with the conversation, so they know that you're kind of listening and taking into what they're saying. Because I think if you don't do those kind of things, then they might think that you're not passionate about the job you're going for, so they might think like you don't actually want that job.
Yeah, like you've just got to be engaged, aren't you? And you got to show that enthusiasm to the employer, to really like stand out. If you just go in there, quiet and a bit disinterested, then it's just not going to help you out at all. So yeah, thank you, Lewis. Luke, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so my last point leads on to it's about spending time researching the actual company that you're going to be interviewed by. So kind of to do with before an interview or even before sending off your application for the business, you should always ensure that you research the company as thoroughly as you can. Not only will this increase your chances of getting hired, it can also help you to decide whether the company will be a good cultural fit for you. The first part you can look at of the company is the website, particularly the About Us section they'll have, where it can give you a good idea as to the size, the scale, and the overall ethos of the organization. You should also be looking for information on what the company offers. So in terms of like their services and their products, how long has the company been in business? How has the services of the company products changed or improved over the years? Has this company expanded its business to other locations or other parts of the world? And even stuff as just like, who is the CEO? Although you're not directly speaking to them in the interview, it would show that you've done your research and that you know more about the company. So if you do this, the managers that are hiring will know that they're dealing with someone who is serious about the position. And obviously, you as the candidate has taken the time to learn more about the company. Another point is the organization's social media sites are another great way to look at this, to see what they put out, what they say about themselves. and secondly, what others say about them on their posts, you know, commenting and stuff like that. About the website, again, most companies do have a page on their website dedicated to like the releases into the press and events that they're holding, which can actually be a great source for you to find out information regarding the company's like latest news and updates. And just a last point quickly is during the interview, try to ask thoughtful questions about the company based on what you found out online. Just so it shows that you're interested and that you can have the desire, to get the place, you know. So say you're going into an interview and someone before you's come, they've just come out and they're looking happy. You could go in and you could have that edge over them, just because obviously the people who are hiring could be thinking, oh, this guy's really done his research. He knows he really wants this job. So my main point really would be is to just spend some time researching the company that you want to be hired by.
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you show like that enthusiasm about the company or place that you're willing to work at, and it was a great point what you said about asking questions. You know, if you seem to be proactive about the opportunity, and by asking questions, the employee is going to think, oh yeah, you know, this person is really enthused, and he's really actually interested in what we're doing as a company. You know, he's not just here for a paycheck. So I think that's a great point from you, Luke. It's just such a competitive environment out there. So any opportunities to gain a competitive edge over other people is just worth taking. I don't know if there's any more points from anyone, if they want to add in before we end the podcast.
I don't believe so, not from my end anyway.
Nothing from me, Jace.
But yeah,
No, I'm not
thank
anything
you.
to say.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the podcast. We hope all again see you next week. Everyone stay safe and thank you.